A wealthy CEO met an independent nanny in the most unlikely place, and what happened next changed both their lives forever. This isn't just a story about power and vulnerability. It's about passion, second chances, and discovering love where you least expect it. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from, because this is one romance you'll never forget. The coffee shop was bustling with the usual morning chaos when Olivia Hart nearly collided with a wall of expensive suit. Her latte lurched dangerously in her hand as she stumbled backward, and strong fingers wrapped around her elbow, steadying her with a grip that sent an unexpected jolt through her entire body. "Careful," a deep voice said, and she looked up into the most intense gray eyes she'd ever seen. For a moment, the noise of the cafe faded. There was only him, tall, devastatingly handsome, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it one too many times that morning. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, and when his gaze locked onto hers, Olivia felt her breath catch in her throat. "I'm so sorry," she managed, acutely aware that his hand was still on her arm, his touch burning through the thin fabric of her cardigan. "No harm done." His voice was velvet over steel, and something in the way he looked at her made her feel like she was the only person in the crowded room. His eyes traveled over her face with an intensity that made her skin flush warm. Then someone called his name, "Mr. Blackwood," and the spell shattered. He released her arm, his fingers trailing away slowly, reluctantly. "Excuse me," he said, but his eyes lingered on her for one more heartbeat before he turned away. Olivia stood frozen, watching him walk toward a cluster of suited professionals waiting by the door. Mr. Blackwood. She'd heard that name before. Everyone in the city had. Alexander Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Industries, one of the most powerful men in Manhattan, and she'd just spilled coffee on his shoe. She looked down in horror at the small dark stain on his obviously expensive leather Oxford. But when she glanced back up, he was already gone, swept away by his entourage. Only the lingering warmth on her arm proved the encounter had been real. 3 days later, Olivia stood in the marble lobby of Blackwood Tower, clutching her portfolio and trying not to feel intimidated by the opulence surrounding her. The job posting had been specific. Live-in nanny for a single father, generous salary, private quarters, immediate start. She'd almost dismissed it as too good to be true, but her current position was ending, and she needed the work. "Ms. Hart?" A crisp woman in her 50s approached, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "I'm Margaret Chen, Mr. Blackwood's assistant." "Please follow me," Olivia's heart stuttered. "Mr. Blackwood?" As in Alexander Blackwood. "Is there another?" Margaret's smile was polite but brisk as she led Olivia toward a private elevator. "The position is for his daughter, Sophie. She's 7, quite bright, and has been through 4 nannies in 6 months. The elevator rose smoothly, swiftly, and Olivia's stomach dropped for reasons that had nothing to do with the ascent. She was going to see him again, the man whose touch had haunted her dreams for 3 nights straight. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, modern furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary, and an eerie silence that felt wrong for a home with a child. "Wait here," Margaret instructed. Gesturing to a sleek leather sofa, Olivia sat, her hands clasped in her lap, her heart hammering against her ribs. She heard him before she saw him, that same deep voice from the coffee shop speaking tersely to someone on the phone. Then he appeared in the doorway and the air evacuated from her lungs. He was even more devastating in the soft afternoon light. He'd shed his jacket, and his white shirt was rolled up at the sleeves, revealing strong forearms. But it was his face that held her captive, those stormy gray eyes that had invaded her thoughts for days. Recognition flashed across his features the moment he saw her. His stride faltered, just for a second, and something electric crackled in the space between them. "You," he said, his voice lower than before, almost rough. "Mr. Blackwood." She stood, forcing herself to meet his gaze even as her pulse raced. "I didn't realize, at the coffee shop, I mean. I'm here about the nanny position." He moved closer, each step deliberate, predatory almost, until he stood just a breath away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and woody that made her want to lean in. His eyes searched her face with that same unnerving intensity, and she felt stripped bare under his scrutiny. The coffee shop, he repeated, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. You left before I could buy you another latte. To replace the one you spilled. On your shoe, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm really sorry about that. Don't be. His gaze dropped to her mouth, lingered there for a fraction too long. It was the most interesting part of my morning. The temperature in the room seemed to spike. Olivia's skin prickled with awareness, every nerve ending attuned to his proximity. She could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, the tiny flecks of silver in his gray eyes, the way his throat moved when he swallowed. Mr. Blackwood, Margaret's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Sophie will be home from school in 20 minutes. He stepped back. And Olivia could breathe again, though she wasn't sure she wanted to. Right, Sophie. He cleared his throat, his professional mask sliding back into place, though his eyes remained heated. Tell me about your experience with children. They sat, and Olivia walked him through her credentials. Her degree in early childhood education, her 5 years working with various families, her references. But the entire time, she was painfully aware of how he watched her. Not like an employer reviewing a candidate, but like a man studying a woman who fascinated him. His questions were thorough, intelligent, probing. But occasionally, his gaze would drift to her hands, her throat, the curve of her neck where her pulse fluttered visibly. And each time her words would stumble, her thoughts scattering like leaves in a storm. Why did your last position end? He asked. The family relocated to London. They wanted me to come, but I have roots here. My sister, my friends. Family is important. Something shadowed his expression. Sophie's mother passed away 2 years ago. It's been difficult for her to trust new people in her life. I'm so sorry, Olivia said softly, and meant it. That must be incredibly hard for both of you. His eyes met hers, and for a moment she saw past the powerful CEO to the grieving father beneath. Vulnerability flickered in his gaze before he shuttered it away. She needs stability, consistency, someone who won't leave. I don't give up on children, Mr. Blackwood. Once I commit, I stay. Alexander, he said suddenly. Call me Alexander. The intimacy of his first name felt dangerous on her tongue, but she nodded. Alexander, the way he reacted to hearing his name in her voice, a subtle tensing of his jaw, a darkening of his eyes, made her wonder what it would sound like whispered in the dark. Daddy. A small whirlwind burst into the room, a little girl with dark curls and her father's gray eyes. She stopped short when she saw Olivia, her expression shuddering. Sophie, this is Ms. Hart. She's another nanny. Sophie's voice was flat, resigned. They never stay. Olivia's heart clenched. She knelt down, bringing herself to the child's eye level. You're right. I am another nanny, but I'm also someone who keeps her promises. And I promise that if your dad hires me, I'll be here for as long as you need me. Sophie studied her with eyes far too old for 7. That's what they all say. Then I'll have to prove I'm different, won't I? Something flickered in the little girl's expression, a tiny crack in her armor. Do you like art? I'm painting a mural in my room. I love art. I minored in it in college. Really? Sophie's eyes widened slightly. None of the other nannies liked getting messy. Olivia smiled. Lucky for you, I don't mind mess at all. She glanced up at Alexander and found him watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. Hunger, hope, and something far more complicated tangled together in his gaze. When their eyes met, the air between them crackled with unspoken possibility. The job is yours, he said, his voice rough. If you want it. Olivia knew she should consider it carefully, weigh the risks. But looking at Sophie's cautiously hopeful face and feeling the magnetic pull of Alexander's presence, she already knew her answer. I want it. Moving into the Blackwood penthouse felt like stepping into another world. Olivia's quarters were larger than her entire previous apartment. A suite with a bedroom, private bathroom, and a small sitting area that overlooked the glittering city. Everything was tasteful, expensive, and intimidating. But it was the proximity to Alexander that truly unsettled her. Her first morning, she woke at dawn and padded into the kitchen. Still in her sleep shorts and an oversized t-shirt, her hair tousled from sleep, she stopped dead in the doorway. Alexander stood at the counter in nothing but gray sweatpants, his back to her as he made coffee. His shoulders were broader than she'd imagined, muscles moving beneath tanned skin as he reached for a mug. When he turned and saw her, his eyes darkened, traveling slowly down her body before snapping back to her face. "I didn't expect you up this early," he said, his voice still rough with sleep. "I'm an early riser." She was acutely aware of how little she was wearing, how his gaze kept dipping to her bare legs before he forced it away. "I can come back, stay." The word came out almost commanding, then softer. "Please." "Coffee?" She nodded, moving into the kitchen, hyper-aware of the space between them. He poured her a cup, his fingers brushing hers as he handed it to her. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm. "Cream? Sugar?" His voice was lower now, intimate in the quiet morning. "Just black, like mine." A slow smile curved his lips, and something about it made her stomach flip. "We have that in common." They stood there, the massive kitchen suddenly feeling too small, drinking coffee as dawn light spilled through the windows. Every time she glanced at him, she found him already watching her, his gray eyes intense and unreadable. "I should go get dressed," she finally managed. "Before Sophie wakes up." "Olivia." Her name on his lips sounded like a caress. She stopped, looked back. "I'm glad you're here." The sincerity in his voice, the heat in his eyes, made her heart race. "Me too." She fled to her room, pressing her back against the door, her coffee cup trembling slightly in her hand. This was her employer. She couldn't feel this way about him. But her body hadn't received that memo. Every nerve ending still hummed with awareness of him. The days developed a rhythm. Olivia got Sophie ready for school, picked her up in the afternoon, helped with homework, and slowly, carefully began breaking through the little girl's walls. They painted together, read stories, baked cookies that turned the pristine kitchen into a disaster zone. And through it all, Alexander was there, returning from work earlier than before, joining them for dinner, his presence a constant, magnetic pull. One evening, as Olivia was tucking Sophie into bed, the little girl grabbed her hand. "You're different from the others," Sophie said quietly. "Daddy smiles more when you're here." Olivia's heart squeezed. "I'm glad. You both deserved a smile. Do you like him?" "My daddy?" The innocent question landed like a bomb. Olivia chose her words carefully. "I think he's a wonderful father. And a good man." Sophie studied her with those two knowing eyes. "He likes you too. He watches you when he thinks no one's looking." Heat flooded Olivia's cheeks. "Good night, sweetheart," she said, pressing a kiss to Sophie's forehead, dodging the observation that had hit far too close to the truth. When she emerged from Sophie's room, Alexander was waiting in the hallway. In the dim light, with his tie loosened and his hair slightly mussed, he looked less like a powerful CEO and more like a man, dangerous and tempting. "Is she settled?" His voice was quiet, conscious of the sleeping child. "Yes, she's amazing, Alexander. You've done a wonderful job with her." He stepped closer, and suddenly the wide hallway felt narrow. "I've been failing her. Before you came, she barely spoke to me. Now she's laughing again. That's you, Olivia. That's all you." The raw emotion in his voice made her throat tight. "You are both grieving. That takes time." "Time," he laughed softly, bitterly. "I've had 2 years. You've been here 2 weeks and already everything feels different." He was standing close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the 5 o'clock shadow darkening his jaw. Her fingers itched to touch it, to feel the roughness against her palm. "Alexander," she whispered, a warning and a plea. "Tell me you don't feel this." His eyes searched hers, desperate, hungry. "Tell me I'm imagining the way you look at me, the way your breath catches when I'm near. Tell me and I'll step back. I'll keep this professional." She should lie, should protect them both. But the words wouldn't come. "I can't," she admitted, her voice barely audible. He inhaled sharply, his hands flexing at his sides like he was physically restraining himself from reaching for her. "This is complicated. You work for me. Sophie is just starting to trust you. I know." Every logical part of her brain was screaming the same things. "It's a terrible idea." The worst, but he didn't move away. Neither did she. They stood there, suspended in the dim hallway, the air between them crackling with tension. She could see his pulse hammering in his throat, matching the frantic rhythm of her own heart. I should go to bed, she said. But her feet remained rooted to the floor. You should. His gaze dropped to her lips, and she felt that look like a physical touch. Good night. Alexander. Good night, Olivia. She forced herself to walk away, to go to her room, to close the door between them. But sleep was impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, the hunger in his gaze, the tension in his body, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and dangerous all at once. The next morning, there was a careful distance between them. Professional, proper. It lasted exactly 3 days. Sophie had a school project about family traditions, and she'd insisted they all work on it together. They spread out in the living room, Sophie between them on the couch, papers and markers scattered everywhere. Tell me about your family traditions. Olivia, Sophie asked, leaning against her. Olivia smiled, tucking a curl behind the little girl's ear. My sister and I used to make paper snowflakes every December. We'd cover every window in the house, so can we do that? Sophie's eyes lit up. Absolutely. We'll make this place look like a winter wonderland. She glanced up and found Alexander watching them, with an expression that made her chest ache, longing and affection and something deeper, darker, more dangerous. Later, after Sophie went to bed, Olivia stayed to clean up the project debris. Alexander appeared with 2 glasses of wine. I thought you might want this, he said, handing her one. Trying to get me drunk, Mr. Blackwood? She meant it as a joke, but her voice came out breathy, suggestive. Is it working? The corner of his mouth quirked up, and God, she wanted to taste that smile. They sat on the couch, the same spot where Sophie had been hours earlier, but now the space felt intimate, charged. He'd changed into jeans and a soft gray Henley that made his eyes even more striking. She adores you, Alexander said quietly. I haven't seen her this happy since before her mother died. She's an incredible kid. You both are doing better than you think. Because of you. He set his wine glass down, turned to face her fully. Do you have any idea what you've done to this house, to us? Alexander, let me finish. His hand came up, hovering near her face but not quite touching. I told myself I could keep this professional. That what I feel when I look at you was just attraction, just physical. But it's not. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. What are you saying? I'm saying that every morning I wake up eager to see you. Every evening I come home early just to hear your laugh. I'm saying that you've made me feel alive again in ways I didn't think possible. His voice dropped to a rough whisper. And I'm saying that it's taking every ounce of control I have not to kiss you right now. Olivia couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. His hand was still hovering near her face, and she could feel the warmth of it, the restraint in every taut line of his body. This could ruin everything, she whispered. I know. Sophie needs stability. She needs me to be her nanny, not I know. His eyes were agonized. Believe me, I've thought of every reason this is wrong. But you're still here. I'm still here. His thumb finally made contact, brushing featherlight along her cheekbone. The touch was so gentle, so reverent, it made her eyes flutter closed. Tell me to stop, Olivia. Tell me to go. She opened her eyes, met his gaze. I can't. The words hung between them, permission and surrender all at once. His hand cupped her face fully now, his palm warm against her skin, and she leaned into his touch like a flower seeking sun. We can't act on this, he said, even as his thumb traced the curve of her jaw. Not yet. Not while the situation is so complicated. I know. But she couldn't pull away from his touch. But I needed you to know. I needed to stop pretending. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, their breaths mingling. Tell me you feel it too. I feel it. The admission felt like jumping off a cliff. Every moment. It's driving me crazy. He made a sound low in his throat, something between a groan and a laugh. We're in trouble. So much trouble. They stayed like that, foreheads pressed together, his hand cradling her face, existing in a moment that was both everything and nothing. Not quite a kiss, but far more than professional. Finally, reluctantly, he pulled back. The loss of his touch felt physical. We'll figure this out, he said. Somehow. Olivia nodded, not trusting her voice. They sat in charged silence, the unspoken promise hanging between them. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The following weeks were exquisite torture. They'd agreed to maintain distance to keep things professional for Sophie's sake. But every moment crackled with the awareness of what simmered beneath the surface. Alexander found excuses to be near her, his hand lingering on the small of her back as he passed in the hallway, his fingers brushing hers when he handed her coffee, his eyes tracking her movements across every room. And Olivia was just as guilty, hyper-aware of his presence, her skin tingling whenever he was close. "You're playing with fire," Margaret told her one afternoon when she'd brought some documents to the penthouse. The older woman's knowing gaze missed nothing. "I don't know what you mean," Olivia said, but her cheeks flushed. "Yes, you do." Margaret's voice wasn't unkind. "I've worked for Alexander for 15 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you, not even his late wife." The words should have made Olivia happy, but instead they filled her with guilt. "Nothing's happened. Nothing will happen. That's not what I'm worried about." Margaret touched her arm gently. "He deserves happiness, Olivia. So do you. Just be careful. Sophie's heart is involved now, too." The warning stayed with her, a constant whisper of caution. But it was hard to be careful when Alexander made her feel like she was burning alive. One Saturday, Sophie begged to go ice skating at Rockefeller Center. Alexander suggested they make it a family outing, and the word family hung in the air, weighted with meaning. At the rink, Sophie held both their hands, chattering excitedly as they laced up their skates. When they stepped onto the ice, the little girl immediately pushed off. "Surprisingly confident, she's good," Olivia said, watching Sophie glide ahead. "Her mother taught her." Alexander's voice was quiet, tinged with old grief. "Sarah loved skating." Olivia squeezed his hand. They were still holding hands, she realized, though Sophie had long since let go. She started to pull away, but his fingers tightened around hers. "Don't," he said, "please. Just for today." So they skated together, hands clasped, Sophie circling around them like a delighted satellite. To any observer, they looked exactly like what they weren't supposed to be: a family, a couple, together. When Sophie skated over to chat with another little girl, Alexander pulled Olivia closer. On skates, she was almost at his height, their faces level. His breath created small clouds in the cold air. "I want to kiss you so badly right now," he murmured, his voice for her alone. "You have no idea how hard it is not to." Her heart stuttered. "Alexander, I know." "Wrong place, wrong time." "But God, Olivia, when you smile at me like that, I forget every reason why I shouldn't. People are watching. Sophie could look over any second. I know." But his free hand came up to her waist, steadying her, pulling her imperceptibly closer. "I'm not going to kiss you, but I need you to know I want to. I need you to know that every moment of restraint is killing me." The intensity in his eyes made her dizzy, or maybe that was just the effect of being in his arms. "This is dangerous. Everything about you is dangerous." His thumb traced small circles on her waist through her coat. "You've destroyed my carefully controlled life, Olivia Hart, and I can't even bring myself to regret it." "Daddy." "Olivia, watch this." Sophie's voice broke the spell. They separated, watching as Sophie attempted a small spin, but Olivia could still feel the ghost of his touch, could still see the hunger in his eyes when she glanced at him. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Olivia found Alexander in his study. Tied, discarded shirt sleeves rolled up, looking exhausted and gorgeous in equal measure. "You should be asleep," he said. But his eyes lit up when he saw her. "So should you. It's past midnight." Couldn't sleep. His gaze raked over her. She was in pajama pants and a fitted tank top, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Now I definitely won't be able to." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I'll go. Stay." He stood, moved around the desk. "Please, I like having you here. Even if it's torture, why is it torture?" She was playing with fire, but she couldn't help herself. He laughed low and rough. "You really want me to answer that? While you're standing in my study in those pajamas, looking like every fantasy I've tried not to have." Her breath caught. "Alexander, see? Even the way you say my name." He ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I'm trying to do the right thing here, Olivia. Trying to be professional, to think of Sophie, to not complicate your position in this house. But then you look at me with those eyes and I forget every rational thought. She should leave, should retreat to her room. Instead, she stepped closer. What if I don't want you to be rational?" His jaw clenched. "Don't say that unless you mean it." I mean it. Her heart was pounding, reckless courage flooding through her. I'm tired of pretending, of acting like my entire body doesn't come alive when you're near, of lying awake at night wishing she didn't get to finish. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands framing her face, and for one breathless moment she thought he would finally kiss her. His lips hovered a fraction of an inch from hers, his breath warm against her mouth. "We can't," he whispered, agonized. "Not yet. Not like this. You deserve better than a stolen moment in my study at midnight." "I don't care. I do." His thumb stroked her cheeks, tender despite the tension thrumming through his body. "When I kiss you, Olivia, and I will kiss you, it won't be rushed. It won't be something we have to hide or feel guilty about. I want to do this right." Tears pricked her eyes, frustration and desire and something deeper. How? How do we do this right when everything about this situation is complicated? "I don't know yet." His forehead pressed to hers, their almost kiss suspended in painful sweetness. "But I'll figure it out. I promise. You're worth figuring it out for." They stood like that, locked together but not kissing, the restraint somehow more intimate than any kiss could be. Finally, reluctantly, he stepped back. "Go to bed, Olivia, before I lose what's left of my control." She went, but sleep was impossible. Her lips still tingled from the kiss that never happened. Her skin still burned from his touch. She was falling for him, had already fallen, and there was no way back. The next morning, everything changed. Olivia was making breakfast when Sophie wandered in, unusually quiet. The little girl climbed onto a stool, watching Olivia with serious eyes. "Can I ask you something?" Sophie's voice was small. "Of course, sweetheart, anything." "Do you love my daddy?" Olivia's hand stilled on the whisk. "Sophie, it's okay if you do. I want you to." Sophie's eyes were suspiciously bright. "I love you, Olivia. I don't want you to leave like the others. And Daddy's happy when you're here." He smiles again. He laughs. Olivia's throat tightened. She set down the whisk and pulled Sophie into a hug. "I'm not leaving, baby. I promise. But you didn't answer my question." Sophie pulled back, looking at her with those eyes so like her father's. "Do you love him?" Before Olivia could answer, Alexander appeared in the doorway. From the look on his face, he'd heard everything. "Sophie," he said gently, "why don't you go get dressed for the day? Olivia and I need to talk." Sophie looked between them, then nodded and scampered off. The silence she left behind was deafening. "How much did you hear?" Olivia asked quietly. "Enough." He moved into the kitchen but maintained his distance as if afraid of what might happen if he got too close. "She's perceptive. She sees what we've been trying to hide. I didn't mean for this to happen. For her to get caught up in—" "Neither did I, but here we are." He leaned against the counter, his gray eyes intense. "So let's stop pretending. Stop hiding. I need to know, Olivia. What Sophie asked you, how would you have answered?" Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment of truth. She could lie, could protect herself, could maintain the illusion of professional distance. Or she could be brave. "Yes," she whispered. "I love you. I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated and possibly insane, but yes. I'm in love with you, Alexander." The confession hung in the air between them, terrifying and liberating. He stared at her, his expression unreadable, and for a horrible moment she thought she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Then he moved, crossed to her in 3 long strides, his hands cupping her face, tilting it up to his. "Say it again," he demanded. His voice raw. "I love you, thank God." And then finally, his lips crashed against hers. The kiss was everything she'd imagined and nothing like she'd expected. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, consuming. 2 weeks of restraint exploding into pure need. His mouth moved against hers with a hunger that made her knees weak. His hands sliding into her hair, holding her like she was precious and necessary and his. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, and he groaned against her mouth. The sound sent heat spiraling through her. His tongue traced the seam of her lips and she opened for him, the kiss deepening until she was drowning in sensation. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he said, the words fierce and sure. "I've been falling for you since that moment in the coffee shop. Maybe before, Maybe in some other lifetime where I was always meant to find you. Alexander. His name was a prayer, a plea. I know this is complicated. I know we have things to figure out. But I'm done pretending I don't feel this. Done acting like you're just Sophie's nanny when you're so much more. He kissed her again, softer this time. Reverent. I love you, Olivia Hart. And I'm going to spend every day proving it. Footsteps in the hallway made them spring apart. Sophie appeared, now dressed, and looked between them with a knowing smile. Did you kiss her, Daddy? Alexander laughed, the sound free and happy in a way Olivia had never heard. Yes, sweetheart. I did. Good, Sophie grinned. It's about time. The days after their first kiss felt like living in a dream. Alexander was different, lighter, more present, touching her whenever he could. A hand on her lower back as they passed in the hallway, fingers intertwining under the dinner table. Stolen kisses in the kitchen when Sophie wasn't looking. But they were careful. So careful. In front of Sophie, they maintained appropriate boundaries, though the little girl's knowing smiles suggested she saw right through them. We need to talk about how to handle this, Alexander said one evening after Sophie was in bed. They were curled together on the couch, Olivia tucked against his side, his arm around her shoulders. I know. She traced patterns on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palm. This changes everything. Does it have to? His lips brushed her temple. You're still Sophie's nanny. You still live here. We're just... More now. Your board of directors might not see it that way. The media definitely won't, he tensed. She'd touched a nerve. I don't care what they think, but I do. She pulled back to look at him. I don't want anyone thinking I used Sophie to get to you, or that I'm some kind of gold digger. I worked hard to build my reputation. Hey. He cupped her face, his thumb stroking her cheek. No one who matters would ever think that. Anyone who knows you can see how much you love Sophie, how good you are for her. And for you? The question slipped out vulnerable. His eyes darkened. Especially for me. He kissed her slowly, deeply, until she forgot what they'd been talking about. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. But you're right. We need to be smart about this. At least until we figure out how to announce it properly. Announce it? Her stomach flipped. Eventually. When the time is right. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up. I'm not hiding you, Olivia. I'm not ashamed of what we have. I just want to protect you from the vultures who will try to tear this apart. The protectiveness in his voice made her melt against him. Okay, we'll be careful. For now, he agreed. Then proceeded to kiss her until careful was the last thing on her mind. 2 weeks later, Alexander had to attend a charity gala, one of those glittering Manhattan affairs where the city's elite gathered to write checks and network. He'd tried to get out of it, but the foundation was one he'd founded in his late wife's memory. I'll be back by midnight, he promised, adjusting his bow tie in the hallway mirror. He looked devastating in a tuxedo, and Olivia had to physically restrain herself from touching him. You look... She trailed off, unable to find adequate words. His eyes met hers in the mirror, heated. Finish that sentence. Like every fantasy I shouldn't have about my employer. He turned, and suddenly he was crowding her against the wall, his hands on either side of her head. His body close enough to feel but not quite touching. I'm not just your employer anymore, no. Her voice came out breathless, no. His mouth hovered near her ear. I'm the man who's going to spend all night thinking about coming home to you. About how you look right now in that sweater. About what I want to do when I finally have you alone. Heat flooded through her. Alexander, Daddy, you're going to be late. Sophie's voice carried from her room. He groaned, pressing a quick, fierce kiss to her lips before stepping back. To be continued. She watched him leave, her heart racing, her body still humming from his proximity. This man was going to be the death of her. An hour later, her phone buzzed with a text. Alexander, I miss you already. This is torture. She smiled, typing back, focus on the charity. Save lives. Be charming, Alexander. The only person I want to be charming for is you. Are you wearing that sweater still? Olivia, maybe, why? Alexander, because I've been thinking about taking it off you since I left. Her face burned. She glanced toward Sophie's room, making sure the little girl was occupied with her drawing before responding. You can't say things like that while you're at a gala. Alexander, watch me. I'm sitting at a table full of hedge fund managers, and all I can think about is you. The way you taste, the sound you make when I kiss you, how soft your skin is, Olivia. You're terrible, Alexander. You love it, she did. God help her, she did. The text continued throughout the evening, innocent updates mixed with comments that made her pulse race. She felt like a teenager again, giddy and reckless and utterly consumed. Around 10, her phone rang. Alexander's name flashed on the screen. Missing me already? She answered, smiling. Come. His voice was rough, commanding. To the gala. Come meet me. What? Alexander, I can't just... Please. The single word was filled with such longing it made her chest ache. I know it's last minute. I know it's asking a lot. But I'm standing here surrounded by people, and all I can think is that you should be here. By my side, where you belong. Her breath caught. Sophie, Margaret's on her way. She'll stay with Sophie. Say yes, Olivia. Come to me. Every logical reason to refuse dissolved under the intensity in his voice. Okay, yes. There's a dress in your closet, blue. I had it sent over earlier just in case. A car will be there in 20 minutes. You planned this? I hoped. The smile was evident in his voice. I've been hoping all night you'd say yes. Margaret arrived 15 minutes later with a conspiratorial wink. The dress was hanging in Olivia's closet, and when she pulled it out, she gasped. It was stunning. Midnight blue silk that shimmered in the light, with a neckline that plunged just enough to be daring, and a skirt that would hug every curve. She'd never worn anything like it in her life. But when she slipped it on and looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back looked sophisticated, elegant, like someone who belonged in Alexander Blackwood's world. The car dropped her at the Plaza Hotel, where a staff member was waiting to escort her inside. The ballroom was a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns, champagne flowing as freely as the conversation and laughter. And then she saw him. Alexander stood near the bar, and the moment their eyes met across the crowded room, everything else faded. His expression transformed, desire, possession, and something that looked almost like reverence flooding his features. He moved toward her like a man possessed, and she met him halfway. You came, he breathed, his eyes roaming over her in that dress. You asked. You're stunning. His hand found the small of her back, the touch burning through the thin silk. Every man in this room is staring at you. I don't care about them. She looked up at him through her lashes. I'm only here for you. His sharp intake of breath was gratifying. Dance with me. He led her onto the floor, and suddenly they were in each other's arms, swaying to a slow instrumental. His hand splayed possessively across her lower back, pulling her closer than was strictly proper. Her hand rested on his shoulder, feeling the tension in his muscles. Everyone's watching, she murmured. Let them. His lips brushed her ear, making her shiver. Let them see that you're mine. Alexander, I know. We said we'd be careful. But I'm tired of careful, Olivia. I want the world to know how I feel about you. Her heart hammered. What about Sophie? What about... Sophie already knows. She practically pushed me out the door tonight, told me to bring you back happy. His thumb traced circles on her back. As for everyone else, I'm announcing our relationship tonight. Panic fluttered in her chest. That's not, we haven't discussed, I'm in love with you. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious truth in the world. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not hiding it. And I'm done pretending you're just Sophie's nanny when you're the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. The rest of his life. The words hung between them, monumental. You don't mean that, she whispered. I've never meant anything more. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But when you've lost someone you love, you learn not to waste time. Life is too short, too precious. And I know that you're it for me. Tears pricked her eyes. Alexander, you don't have to say it back, not yet. But I needed you to know. His hand came up to cup her face, unmindful of their audience. I love you, Olivia Hart, completely, irrevocably, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you. A camera flash went off nearby. Then another. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as people began to notice Alexander Blackwood, Manhattan's most eligible widower, holding a woman like she was his entire world. Too late to be careful now, she said. laughing through her tears. Good. And then he kissed her right there in the middle of the ballroom. In front of hundreds of witnesses and at least a dozen cameras. The kiss was claiming, possessive, a declaration to anyone watching that she was his. When they finally broke apart, applause broke out around them. Alexander grinned, looking younger and freer than she'd ever seen him. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Alexander kept her at his side, his hand never leaving the small of her back, introducing her not as Sophie's nanny but simply as Olivia, the woman I love. Some people were gracious, congratulating them warmly. Others stared with barely concealed shock or disapproval. A few whispered behind their hands. Olivia held her head high, drawing strength from Alexander's unwavering support. "You're handling this beautifully," he murmured during a quiet moment. "I'm terrified. You don't look it." His eyes were soft. "You look like you belong here." "With me, do I? Belong here?" The question revealed more insecurity than she'd intended. He turned her to face him fully, his hands framing her face. "You belong wherever I am, always. Don't doubt that, Olivia." Not for a second. Around midnight, they finally left, climbing into the car that would take them home. The moment the privacy partition rolled up, Alexander pulled her into his lap. "I've been wanting to do this all night," he murmured against her lips. She kissed him back, her hands sliding into his hair, all the restraint of the evening dissolving. His hands roamed her back, her sides, exploring through the silk that suddenly felt like too much fabric between them. "We should wait," she gasped as his mouth moved to her neck. "Until we're home." "We should," he agreed, but his teeth grazed her pulse point, making her moan. "But I don't want to." The drive home was the longest and shortest of her life, endless because she wanted him so desperately, instantaneous because time seemed to stop when he touched her. When they finally reached the penthouse, Margaret met them at the door with a smile. "Sophie's asleep, and I'll just be going now." "Thank you, Margaret," Alexander said, never taking his eyes off Olivia. The moment they were alone, he backed her against the door, his body pressing against hers in a way that made rational thought impossible. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "In my room, in my bed. Let me show you how much I love you." Olivia's breath caught at his words, her heart racing wildly. "Alexander, we can't. Sophie might—" "Sophie's room is on the other side of the penthouse. She sleeps like the dead." His lips traced her jawline, making coherent thought nearly impossible. "And my door has a lock." "Say yes, Olivia. Stay with me." Every reason to refuse crumbled under the weight of how much she wanted him. "Yes." He captured her mouth in a searing kiss, then took her hand and led her through the darkened penthouse to his bedroom. She'd never been inside before. It was his private sanctuary, off limits even to the cleaning staff except when he was traveling. The room was elegant but surprisingly warm, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. But she barely noticed the decor because Alexander was turning her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "We don't have to do anything you're not ready for," he said softly, his thumbs stroking her bare skin. "Just having you here in my space, in my bed, that's enough." More than enough, the tenderness in his voice undid her. She reached up, cupping his face, feeling the slight roughness of his 5 o'clock shadow. "I want this. I want you. All of you." His eyes darkened, and then he was kissing her again, his hands sliding into her hair, tilting her head back to deepen the kiss. She melted against him, her fingers working the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel his skin against hers. When his shirt finally fell open, she ran her hands over his chest, feeling the hard planes of muscle, the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her palms. He groaned against her mouth, his hands finding the zipper at the back of her dress. "You've been driving me insane in this dress all night," he murmured, slowly drawing the zipper down. "Every time you moved, every time the light caught the silk, all I could think about was taking it off you." The dress slithered to the floor, pooling at her feet, leaving her in nothing but delicate lace. His sharp intake of breath made her feel powerful, desired, beautiful. "God, Olivia." His eyes raked over her with such heat that her skin flushed. "You're perfect. Absolutely perfect." He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed, laying her down with a reverence that made tears prick her eyes. Then he was beside her, his body aligned with hers, skin against skin. Heat and need and something deeper flowing between them. "I love you," he whispered, pressing kisses to her shoulder, her collarbone, the racing pulse at her throat. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too," she breathed, arching into his touch as his hands explored her body with aching slowness. "Alexander, please, patience," he murmured against her skin. "I want to savor every moment, every touch. I want to memorize you." And he did, taking his time, learning what made her gasp, what made her sigh, what made her grip his shoulders and whisper his name like a prayer. The intensity between them built slowly, beautifully, until they were both trembling with need. When they finally came together, it felt like coming home, like two pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Olivia looked into his eyes and saw her future reflected there, love and passion and partnership and home. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back. The city glittered beyond the windows, but inside there was only warmth and contentment, and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear. "Stay," he murmured into her hair. "Always, I don't ever want you to leave. I'm not going anywhere." She pressed a kiss to his chest. "You're stuck with me now." She felt his smile. "Best news I've heard all day. Well, second best. The best was when you said you'd come tonight." They talked in whispers, sharing secrets in the darkness. He told her about Sarah, about the guilt he'd carried for moving on, about how loving Olivia had finally let him forgive himself. She told him about her fears, about feeling out of place in his world, about worrying she wasn't enough. "You're everything," he said fiercely, pulling her closer. "Don't ever doubt that." They fell asleep wrapped in each other, and Olivia had never felt safer or more loved in her life. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the realization that she was still in Alexander's bed. Panic fluttered. What if Sophie woke up and came looking for her? But Alexander was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with such tenderness it made her heart ache. "Good morning, beautiful," he murmured, leaning down to kiss her. "What time is it?" "Sophie doesn't wake up before 8 on Sundays. We have time." His hand slid under the sheet, finding her waist. "And I'm not ready to let you go yet." She melted into his kiss, into his touch, into the promise of lazy Sunday mornings in his arms. But eventually reality intruded, and she reluctantly pulled away. "I should go back to my room. Get dressed before she wakes up." "I know." He didn't look happy about it. "But tonight? Tomorrow night? Every night from now on? We'll figure it out." She kissed him once more, then slipped from the bed, gathering her dress. He caught her wrist, pulling her back for one more kiss. "I love you." "I love you too." She made it back to her room just as her alarm went off and had barely finished dressing when Sophie knocked on her door. "Olivia, did you have fun at the party?" She opened the door to find the little girl bouncing with excitement. "I did. Your dad looked very handsome in his tuxedo. Margaret showed me pictures on her phone. You looked like a princess, and Daddy kissed you in front of everyone." Sophie threw her arms around Olivia's waist. "Does this mean you're going to marry him?" Olivia's heart skipped. "Sweetheart, it's not, but you love him, right? And he loves you?" "Yes," she admitted, unable to lie to those earnest eyes. "We do love each other." "Then you should get married. That's what people do when they love each other." Sophie stated it like it was the simplest logic in the world. "It's a bit more complicated than that, baby." "Why? You already live here. You already love us. You make Daddy smile and me happy. What's complicated?" From the mouths of babes, Olivia hugged her tighter. "You're right. Maybe it's not as complicated as I thought." Over the next few days, the media had a field day. Photos of Alexander kissing Olivia at the gala were splashed across gossip columns and society pages. Most of the coverage was positive. Manhattan's most eligible bachelor finding love again was a good story. But some outlets questioned the appropriateness of a relationship between employer and employee, and a few nastier pieces implied Olivia was a gold digger. Alexander was furious when he saw them. "I'm calling my lawyers. We'll sue for defamation." "No." Olivia put a hand on his arm. "That'll just make it worse. Give them more ammunition. We just have to write it out. I won't let them tear you apart, they're not. She cupped his face, making him look at her. I know who I am. I know what we have. Some tabloid speculation can't touch that. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. How did I get so lucky? I ask myself the same thing every day. But the scrutiny took its toll. Photographers camped outside the building. Every time they left the penthouse, cameras flashed. Sophie was confused and a little scared by the attention. Why are those people taking our picture? She asked one afternoon, pressing close to Olivia as they walked to the car. Because your daddy is important, and sometimes people are curious about important people's lives. I don't like it. They're scary. Neither did Olivia, but she kept her smile bright for Sophie's sake. I know, sweetheart, but they'll get bored soon and move on to someone else. Alexander hired additional security and changed their routines to avoid the press. But the stress was mounting. He was irritable at work, distracted at home. Olivia could see the toll it was taking on him. Maybe we should pull back, she said one night, after a particularly vicious article had questioned her qualifications and suggested she was only with Alexander for his money. Let things cool down. Absolutely not. He looked at her like she'd suggested jumping off a cliff. We're not hiding. We're not apologizing for what we have, but Sophie is fine. She has us. That's all that matters. He pulled Olivia into his lap, wrapping his arms around her. I'm not losing you because some vultures want a story. Give up everything before I'd give you up. Don't say that. It's true. His lips found her neck, her jaw. You're more important than any of it. The money, the company, the reputation. None of it matters without you. She turned in his arms, straddling his lap, her hands framing his face. You matter to me too, so much. But I can't watch this destroy you. It won't. We won't let it. He kissed her with desperate intensity. We're stronger than they are. Together, we can handle anything. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. So she kissed him back, pouring all her love and fear and hope into it, trying to forget the storm gathering around them. But 2 days later, everything fell apart. Olivia was picking Sophie up from school when a reporter approached, shoving a microphone in her face. Ms. Hart, is it true you had no formal nanny credentials when Mr. Blackwood hired you? That you lied on your resume to get close to him? What? No, that's not. Is it true you're pregnant with his child? That you trapped him into a relationship? Sophie's hand tightened in hers, the little girl's eyes wide with confusion. Olivia pulled her close, trying to shield her from the cameras. No comment. Please leave us alone. But more reporters were gathering, drawn by the commotion. Questions flew at her, each more invasive than the last. Sophie started crying, overwhelmed by the crowd and the shouting. That's enough. A security guard appeared, helping them to the car. But the damage was done. Sophie was traumatized, clinging to Olivia and sobbing. When they got home, Alexander took one look at them and went white with fury. What happened? Olivia explained, her voice shaking with residual adrenaline. Alexander listened, his jaw clenching tighter with every word. That's it. I'm pulling her from that school. We're hiring private tutors, and I'm suing every single one of those outlets. Alexander, you can't protect us from everything. Watch me. His eyes were fierce. No one gets to hurt my daughter. No one gets to harass the woman I love. I don't care what it cost, Daddy. Sophie's small voice interrupted them. She stood in the doorway, eyes red from crying. Why are those people saying mean things about Olivia? Alexander's expression crumbled. He crossed to his daughter, kneeling down to her level. Because some people are cruel, baby. But none of what they said is true. Promise? I promise. He pulled her into a hug. Olivia is wonderful. She loves you. She loves me. And nothing anyone says can change that. Sophie nodded against his shoulder, then pulled back. Are you going to marry her? The question hung in the air. Alexander looked at Olivia, something shifting in his expression. Determination, decision, certainty. Yes, he said, his eyes never leaving Olivia's. Yes, I am. Olivia's heart stopped. Alexander, you don't have to. I'm not saying it because I have to. He stood, moving toward her with purposeful strides. I'm saying it because it's what I want. What I've wanted since the moment you walked into my life. Sophie clapped her hands together, her tears forgotten. Really? You're getting married? If Olivia will have me. He stopped in front of her, taking both her hands in his. I know this isn't romantic. I know you deserve better than a proposal in the middle of a crisis. But I also know that I don't want to spend another day without making this official. Without telling the world that you're mine and I'm yours. Alexander, this is crazy. Probably. A smile tugged at his lips. But everything about us has been crazy from the start. Why stop now? Because marriage is serious. It's permanent. We've only been together a few weeks. And I've known you were the one since the coffee shop. He squeezed her hands. Olivia, I've done the slow, cautious thing before. I've followed all the rules, done everything right. And I learned that life is too short and too unpredictable to wait for the perfect moment. This is our moment. Right now. Messy and imperfect and real. Tears blurred her vision. What if I'm not enough? What if I can't handle your world, the pressure, the scrutiny? You're already handling it, with more grace and strength than anyone I've ever known. He released one of her hands to cup her face. And you're not just enough, Olivia. You're everything. Say yes. Sophie bounced beside them. Please say yes. Olivia looked at the little girl who'd stolen her heart, then at the man who'd changed her life. All her fears seemed distant compared to the love filling her chest. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Alexander's smile was blinding. He pulled her into his arms, lifting her off her feet, spinning her around while Sophie cheered. When he set her down, he kissed her with such tenderness it made her cry. I don't have a ring yet, he murmured against her lips. But I'll get you one. The biggest, most beautiful ring you've ever seen. I don't need a big ring. I just need you. You have me, forever. Sophie squeezed between them and they both laughed, making room for her in their embrace. For a moment, the three of them stood there, wrapped in each other, a family united against the world. But reality intruded quickly. Alexander's phone rang, his publicist panicking about the school incident. Then his lawyer called. Then Margaret. I need to handle this, Alexander said, reluctance clear in his voice. Will you be okay? We'll be fine. Olivia kissed him softly. Go, do what you need to do. We'll be here. She spent the afternoon with Sophie, distracting her with baking and games, trying to restore some normalcy. But her mind kept returning to Alexander's proposal, to the weight of what she'd agreed to. She was going to marry Alexander Blackwood, become Sophie's stepmother, step fully into a world of wealth and privilege and public scrutiny. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. That evening, after Sophie was in bed, Alexander found her on the terrace, staring out at the city lights. Hey. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, pulling her back against his chest. You're thinking too much. I can practically hear the gears turning. She leaned into him. Just processing. It's been quite a day. Regrets? His voice was carefully neutral, but she heard the fear beneath. No. She turned in his arms to face him. Not about saying yes. Never about that. I'm just scared, Alexander. Scared I'll disappoint you. Scared I'll fail Sophie. Scared the pressure will break us. It won't. He pressed his forehead to hers. You want to know how I know? Because we're already strong enough to survive it. You've handled everything the press has thrown at you with dignity. Sophie adores you, and his voice roughened. I love you more every day. Nothing is going to break that. Promise? Promise. He kissed her slow and deep until her fears quieted. Now, there's something I want to show you. He led her back inside to his study and pulled a small velvet box from his desk drawer. When he opened it, Olivia gasped. The ring was stunning. A sapphire the exact color of her eyes, surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. It was elegant, unique, breathtaking. I know I said I'd get you a ring, but the truth is, I bought this 2 weeks ago. He pulled the ring from the box, his hand steady despite the emotion in his voice. I've been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment. Turns out there is no right moment. There's just the moment you choose. He slipped it onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had always belonged there. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's from Sarah's collection. At her startled look, he continued quickly. Before she died, she made me promise that when I fell in love again, if I fell in love again, I wouldn't hide from it. She wanted me to be happy, wanted Sophie to have a mother who loved her. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. She would have loved you, Olivia. She would have been so grateful that Sophie has you. Olivia's own tears spilled over. She threw her arms around his neck, holding him tight. I'll take care of her. I'll take care of both of you. I promise, I know you will. Just like I'll take care of you. He pulled back, brushing away her tears. Now we need to make a plan. The media is going to lose their minds when we announce the engagement. They spent the next hour strategizing with his publicist via video call. They'd release an official statement, do one carefully controlled interview, and then refuse to comment further. Alexander's legal team would pursue action against the outlets that had harassed them at the school. We control the narrative, the publicist said. You're two people in love who want privacy to build your lives together. Anyone who can't respect that can go to hell. Olivia liked her immediately. The announcement went out the next morning. The response was overwhelming. Congratulations mixed with speculation. Genuine happiness mixed with skepticism. But Alexander's statement was firm. Olivia was his fiancée, Sophie's soon-to-be stepmother, and the love of his life. Anyone who had a problem with it could take it up with him. You didn't have to be quite so aggressive, Olivia said, reading the statement. Yes, I did. He pulled her onto his lap, nuzzling her neck. I'm done being polite about this. You're mine. The world needs to accept it. The possessiveness in his voice sent heat spiraling through her. Yours, huh? Completely. His hand slid under her shirt, fingers splaying across her ribs. And I'm yours. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment. She turned to kiss him, and what started as gentle quickly escalated. His hands roamed her body with increasing urgency, and she was just considering suggesting they move to the bedroom when his phone rang. Ignore it, he growled against her mouth. It might be important. He groaned but checked the screen. His expression darkened. It's my mother. Olivia stiffened. She hadn't even thought about his family. You should answer. I should. But he didn't look happy about it. He took the call, his voice carefully neutral. Mother, I assume you saw the announcement? Olivia couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but Alexander's increasingly tense posture told her everything. His mother wasn't taking the news well. She's not a gold digger. No, I don't care what your friends think. Mother, I'm not discussing this. Because I love her, that's why. You see, Sophie adores her. I don't care if it's too soon. No, we're not waiting. Finally, he hung up, running a hand through his hair in frustration. That went well, Olivia said weakly. She wants to meet you. Wants to assess the situation herself. His jaw was tight. I told her you're not a situation to be assessed, but she's insisting. It's okay. I understand. I'm marrying her son, becoming her granddaughter's stepmother. She has a right to meet me. She has no right to judge you. Alexander pulled her close. But if you want to meet her, we'll arrange it. Just know that her opinion doesn't matter. The only opinions that matter are ours and Sophie's vote is already in. Olivia smiled despite her nerves. When does she want to meet? This weekend. She's coming to the city. The next few days passed in a blur of wedding planning, media management, and trying to maintain normalcy for Sophie. Alexander insisted on a small, intimate wedding, just family and close friends. Olivia was relieved. The thought of a huge society wedding made her anxious. We could elope, Alexander suggested one night, only half joking. Fly to Vegas, get married by Elvis, come back married. Tempting. But Sophie would never forgive us if she missed it. Good point, he kissed her neck. She's already planning her flower girl dress. Apparently it needs to be pink. Very pink, Olivia laughed. She has strong opinions. Wonder where she gets that from. They were happy, deliriously so. But Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the other shoe was about to drop. And on Saturday, when the doorman announced Mrs. Catherine Blackwood's arrival, she knew she was right. Alexander's mother was exactly what Olivia expected. Elegant, composed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She swept into the penthouse like she owned it, her gaze taking in every detail before settling on Olivia. So you're the nanny. Not a question. An assessment. I'm Olivia. She extended her hand, proud that it didn't shake. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Blackwood. Catherine's handshake was brief, perfunctory. We'll see about that. Mother. Alexander's voice held a warning. Olivia is my fiancée. I expect you to treat her with respect. I'm simply being cautious, darling. After Sarah, I thought you'd be more careful about who you brought into Sophie's life. The mention of his late wife was clearly calculated. Olivia saw Alexander's jaw clench, saw the pain flash in his eyes. Grandma. Sophie ran into the room, throwing herself at Catherine. Did you hear? Olivia's going to be my new mommy. Catherine's expression softened slightly as she hugged her granddaughter. I heard, sweetheart. That's why I'm here, to get to know her better. What followed was the most uncomfortable lunch of Olivia's life. Catherine asked pointed questions about her background, her education, her family's financial situation. Alexander grew increasingly tense, jumping to Olivia's defense at every subtle dig. But it was Sophie who finally broke the tension. Grandma, why are you being mean to Olivia? The little girl's voice was small but fierce. She's nice. She makes Daddy happy. She makes me happy. Isn't that what matters? Catherine blinked, clearly taken aback. Sweetheart, I'm not being mean. You are. You're using your fancy voice. The one you use when you don't like something. Sophie crossed her arms. Olivia is part of our family now. If you can't be nice to her, then maybe you shouldn't come visit anymore. Silence fell. Alexander looked like he was trying not to smile. Olivia was torn between horror and pride. And Catherine, for the first time since arriving, looked uncertain. You're right, Catherine said finally, her voice softer. I apologize, Olivia. That was ungracious of me. It wasn't a complete capitulation, but it was something. The rest of the lunch was marginally better, though still strained. When Catherine finally left, Alexander collapsed on the couch, pulling Olivia down with him. That was horrific. I'm sorry, it's fine. She loves you and Sophie. She's just being protective. Too protective. He kissed her temple. But Sophie defending you like that, God, I've never been more proud of her. She's incredible. Olivia smiled. Takes after her father. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind. Despite their desire for intimacy and simplicity, planning even a small wedding proved complex. Alexander wanted to give Olivia everything. The dress of her dreams, the perfect venue. A day she'd never forget. It's too much, she protested when he showed her the waterfront estate he'd rented for the ceremony. Alexander, we don't need all this. I know we don't need it. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder as they looked out at the sunset over the water. But I want to give it to you anyway. I want one perfect day where nothing intrudes, where it's just us and the people we love celebrating. She leaned back against him, savoring his warmth. As long as you're there, it'll be perfect. His arms tightened. I'll be there. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. But as the wedding approached, the pressure mounted. More articles appeared, dissecting their relationship, questioning the speed of their engagement. Alexander's board expressed concern about the optics. A few major clients made pointed comments about stability and judgment. Olivia saw the toll it took on him. The tension in his shoulders, the worry in his eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. One night she found him in his study at 3 a.m, staring at his computer screen. Come to bed, she said softly from the doorway. He looked up, and the exhaustion on his face broke her heart. I can't. I'm trying to contain the damage from the latest article. Apparently, I'm having a midlife crisis and you're my age-inappropriate distraction. She crossed to him, taking his hands and pulling him to his feet. You're 36. I'm 28. We're hardly scandalous. Tell that to the board. His laugh was bitter. They're threatening to call a vote of no confidence if I don't reconsider my recent personal decisions. Her stomach dropped. They want you to break up with me. They want me to choose between you and the company. He pulled her close, his forehead pressing against hers. There's no choice to make. I choose you. Always you. Alexander, you can't give up everything you've built. Watch me. His voice was fierce. I've spent 10 years building that company. But it's just a company. You're my life. You and Sophie. Nothing else matters. What about Sophie's future? Her inheritance? You can't throw that away because some old men don't approve of us. Sophie's future is secure no matter what happens with the company. And she'll have something more valuable than money. She'll have a father who showed her that love matters more than business, more than reputation, more than anything. He cupped her face, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. I need you to understand something. The company can be rebuilt. Money can be made. But there's only one you. And I'm not losing you for anything. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're not. He kissed her gently. You're the reason I'm finally fighting for what really matters. Now come to bed. Everything else can wait until morning. She let him lead her to their bedroom. They'd stopped pretending she slept in her own room weeks ago. In his arms, the world quieted. His hands moved over her body with reverent slowness, like he was memorizing every curve, every sigh. I love you, he whispered against her skin. More than words can express. More than I knew it was possible to love someone. She pulled him closer, showing him with her body what words couldn't convey. Her trust, her devotion, her absolute certainty that he was worth fighting for. Afterward, wrapped in each other, sleep came easier. But the morning brought new challenges. Alexander's assistant called at dawn. The board is meeting today. They've scheduled an emergency vote. Olivia watched him dress for battle. A sharp suit, the confidence of a man who'd built an empire. But she could see the worry in his eyes. I'll come with you, she offered. No, you stay with Sophie. I don't want her worried. He kissed her thoroughly. I'll handle this. Trust me, I do trust you. It's them I don't trust. His smile was grim. Smart woman. I'll call you when it's done. The hours crawled by. Olivia tried to focus on Sophie, on normalcy, but her phone stayed glued to her hand, waiting for news. When it finally rang at 2 in the afternoon, she nearly dropped it. It's done, Alexander said, his voice strangely light. And, I'm no longer CEO. Her heart stopped. Alexander, wait, let me finish. She heard the smile in his voice. I resigned before they could vote. Told them I was stepping down, effective immediately, to focus on my family. Named my second in command as interim CEO and negotiated a very generous exit package. You resigned? She couldn't process it. Just like that? Just like that. I'm done letting them control my life. Done sacrificing my happiness for a company that doesn't value what really matters. His voice softened. I'm coming home, Olivia. To you and Sophie. And I've never felt freer in my life. She was crying and laughing simultaneously. Are you sure? Alexander, this is huge. I'm absolutely sure. In fact, I've already got plans. I'm starting my own firm. Smaller, more selective on my terms. And I'm taking several of my best people with me. People who are tired of the old guard's nonsense. His enthusiasm was infectious. This is good, Olivia. This is right. I should have done it years ago. When will you be home? 20 minutes. And then I'm taking my girls out to celebrate. When he walked through the door, Sophie launched herself at him, and he caught her easily, spinning her around. Daddy! Olivia said you had a big meeting. I did, Princess. A very important meeting where I made a very important decision. He set her down, then pulled Olivia into his arms. I quit my job. Sophie's eyes widened. You can do that? I just did, he grinned. Which means I get to spend a lot more time with you while I build something new. How does that sound? Amazing. Sophie hugged him tight. Can we go to the park more? And the museum? And can you come to my school place? All of it. Every single thing. He looked at Olivia over Sophie's head, his eyes bright with possibility. We're free, Olivia. Finally free. The relief was overwhelming. She'd been so afraid this would destroy him. But instead, he looked younger, lighter, more alive than she'd ever seen him. That night, after Sophie was asleep, they celebrated properly. Alexander was insatiable, his hands and mouth worshipping every inch of her body with renewed passion. Do you know how incredible you are? He murmured between kisses. You made me brave enough to do this. To choose happiness over obligation. You've always been brave. She arched into his touch. I just reminded you what matters. You are what matters. His voice was rough with emotion and desire. You and Sophie. Everything else is just details. He made love to her with an intensity that left them both breathless, whispering promises against her skin. Forever, always, mine. When they finally collapsed together, sated and happy, Olivia felt a contentment she'd never known. 3 more weeks, Alexander said, playing with her engagement ring. 3 more weeks until you're officially mine. I'm already yours, I know. But I want the world to know it too. He kissed her fingers. I want to wake up every morning for the rest of my life and see my ring on your finger. Want everyone to know that you chose me. I'll always choose you." The final weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of preparations and planning. Alexander threw himself into his new venture with characteristic intensity. But he never missed dinner, never missed bedtime stories with Sophie, never failed to make Olivia feel like the center of his universe. His mother gradually warmed to Olivia, especially after Sophie's persistent advocacy. Margaret became an unexpected ally, helping with wedding details and running interference with the media. Even the press coverage shifted, from scandal to romance, from criticism to celebration of second chances. The night before the wedding, tradition dictated they sleep apart. Alexander hated the idea. "It's just one night," Olivia said, though she wasn't happy about it either. One night too many. He pulled her close in the hallway outside her room. "I'm going to miss you. I'm right across the penthouse, might as well be across the world." His hands framed her face. "Tomorrow you become my wife. Officially, legally, permanently mine." Nervous? Terrified. His honesty surprised her. "Not about marrying you. I've never been more certain of anything. But terrified I'll somehow mess this up, that I won't be enough for you." She stood on her toes, kissing him deeply. "You're everything, Alexander. You always have been. Promise you won't change your mind overnight." "Promise." She smiled against his lips. "Now go. The sooner you leave, the sooner tomorrow comes. I love you." Olivia Hart, soon to be Olivia Blackwood. "I love you too." She watched him walk away, her heart so full it ached. Tomorrow she would marry the man of her dreams, become a mother to the little girl she adored, step fully into the life they were building together. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. "Even though he just left, missing you already. Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle toward me. You're going to take my breath away." She smiled, typing back, "Already did that. In the coffee shop, remember? How could I forget? Best coffee I never got to drink. Worth every drop you spilled on my shoe. Go to sleep. Big day tomorrow, only if you promise to dream of me. Always." She fell asleep with a smile on her face, the sapphire ring catching the moonlight, her heart full of hope and happiness and love. The morning of her wedding dawned perfect. Clear skies, gentle breeze, everything aligned as if the universe itself was blessing their union. Olivia's sister arrived early to help her dress, squealing over the gown, a stunning creation of silk and lace that made her feel like a princess. "You're radiant," her sister said, tears in her eyes. "He's so lucky. I'm the lucky one. You're both lucky." She hugged Olivia carefully, mindful of the dress. "I'm so happy for you. You deserve this." Margaret appeared with champagne and Sophie, who gasped when she saw Olivia. "You look like a fairy tale." The little girl was already in her pink dress, looking adorable and proud. "You look pretty beautiful yourself, princess." Olivia knelt down carefully. "Are you ready to be my flower girl?" "I'm ready to be your daughter." Sophie's lower lip trembled. "After today, you'll really be my mommy, right?" Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "After today and every day after. I promise." They hugged, and Margaret had to intervene before both their makeups were ruined. The ceremony was at sunset, on the lawn overlooking the water. As Olivia waited for her cue, her heart raced with anticipation. And then the music began. Sophie walked down the aisle, scattering rose petals with serious concentration. And it was her turn. She stepped into view, and Alexander's reaction made everything, every challenge, every doubt, every moment of fear, worth it. He stared at her like she'd hung the moon, his eyes bright with unshed tears, his expression one of such love and wonder that her own tears spilled over. She walked toward him, toward their future, and when she finally reached his side, he took her hands with trembling fingers. "You're so beautiful," he whispered. "I can't believe you're real." "Believe it," she whispered back. "I'm here. I'm yours, forever." The ceremony passed in a haze of emotion. They spoke their vows, promises of love and partnership, of choosing each other every day, of building a family and a life together. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Alexander pulled her into his arms and kissed her with such passion that their guests erupted in applause and laughter. "Mine," he murmured against her lips. Finally, completely mine. And you're mine. They walked back down the aisle together, husband and wife, with Sophie between them holding both their hands. A family united and whole. The reception was intimate and perfect. 50 of their closest friends and family celebrating under strings of lights as the sun set over the water. Alexander never left Olivia's side, his hand constantly finding hers, his eyes following her every movement with undisguised adoration. Their first dance was to a slow, romantic melody that had Olivia melting into his arms. He held her close, his cheek pressed against hers, swaying to the music as if they were the only two people in the world. Happy? He murmured into her ear, deliriously. She pulled back to look at him. You? I didn't know it was possible to be this happy. His thumb traced her lower lip, his eyes darkening. And the best part? We get to go home together tonight. Wake up together tomorrow. Every day for the rest of our lives. Every day, she echoed, the promise settling warm and permanent in her chest. Sophie insisted on dancing with them both, giggling as Alexander lifted her onto his feet and waltzed her around the floor. Watching them together, Olivia's heart swelled. This was her family now. These were her people. Catherine approached later in the evening, her expression softer than Olivia had ever seen it. May I speak with you? She asked. They stepped aside, and for a moment Catherine simply studied her. Then unexpectedly she smiled. I owe you an apology. A real one, not the token gesture I offered before. She took Olivia's hands. I was protecting Alexander and Sophie, but I see now that you're not a threat to them. You're their salvation. You brought light back into their lives when I thought they'd lost it forever. Olivia's throat tightened. Thank you. That means a lot. You make my son happy. You love my granddaughter like she's your own. That's all that matters. Catherine's eyes grew misty. Welcome to the family, Olivia. Truly. They embraced, and Olivia felt another piece of her new life click into place. As the evening wore on, guests gave toasts that ranged from funny to touching. Margaret spoke about watching Alexander transform from a man going through the motions to someone truly alive again. Olivia's sister shared embarrassing childhood stories that had everyone laughing. And Sophie, unprompted, climbed onto a chair and declared that Olivia was the best mommy ever and her daddy was the best daddy. And they were all going to live happily ever after. Out of the mouths of babes, Alexander whispered, pulling Olivia close as everyone applauded Sophie's speech. Finally, as the night grew late and stars filled the sky, it was time to leave. They'd be spending their wedding night at the estate before flying out in the morning for a honeymoon in Italy. Just the two of them, Sophie staying with Catherine. Sophie hugged them both fiercely. Don't be gone too long. 2 weeks, Alexander promised. And we'll bring you back lots of presents. I don't need presents. I just want you to come back happy. We will be, Olivia assured her, kissing her forehead. I promise. The suite they'd reserved was stunning. All windows and moonlight, with a huge bed covered in rose petals and champagne waiting on ice. But the moment the door closed behind them, all Alexander could focus on was his wife. Say it again, he demanded, backing her against the door. Say what? That you're my wife. His hands found her waist, pulling her flush against him. I want to hear it. I'm your wife, she whispered. And his eyes flared with heat. Again. Your wife, Mrs. Blackwood, yours. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, his hands already working the intricate buttons of her dress. They didn't make it to the bed for a long time. Too caught up in each other, in the wonder of finally being married, of nothing standing between them anymore. Later, wrapped in sheets with moonlight painting silver across their skin, Alexander traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. What are you thinking? She asked. That a year ago I never could have imagined this. Being this happy, loving someone this much. He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. You changed everything, Olivia. You walked into my life and reminded me what it felt like to be alive. You did the same for me. Before you, I was just existing, going through motions. You made me believe in fairy tales again. This isn't a fairy tale. His voice was serious. Fairy tales end. What we have, this is just the beginning. They made love again, slowly this time, savoring every touch and kiss and whispered word. And when they finally fell asleep, tangled together in the big bed, Olivia felt peace she'd never known. The honeymoon in Italy was magical. Days exploring ancient cities and nights lost in each other. They ate too much pasta, drank too much wine, and spent hours just talking, dreaming about their future. "I want more children," Alexander admitted one afternoon as they lounged on a terrace overlooking the Amalfi Coast. "If you do, I want Sophie to have siblings. Want to build this big, chaotic, beautiful family with you?" Olivia's hand drifted to her stomach. "I want that too. I've always wanted a big family. How many are we talking?" His eyes sparkled with mischief. "2 more? 3? A dozen?" She laughed. "Let's start with one and see how it goes. Deal." He pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapping around her waist. "Though I should warn you, I'm very good at making babies. Or at least practicing the making of them. Is that so?" She shifted against him suggestively. "Prove it." He did thoroughly, right there on the terrace with the Mediterranean sun warming their skin and nothing but the sound of the waves below. 2 weeks later, they returned home to a shrieking Sophie who'd missed them desperately. The penthouse had never felt more like home than it did walking through the door with Alexander's hand in hers and Sophie chattering about everything they'd missed. Life settled into a new rhythm. Alexander's company thrived, smaller than his old one, but more innovative, more personal, more aligned with his values. Olivia continued working with Sophie, officially adopting her 6 months after the wedding, in a ceremony that had everyone crying happy tears. And when Olivia discovered she was pregnant a year into their marriage, Alexander's joy was incandescent. He was attentive to the point of being overprotective, hovering constantly, driving her crazy in the best way. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," she protested when he tried to carry her up the stairs for the 3rd time that week. "Humor me. I just want to take care of you. You take care of me plenty." She pulled him down for a kiss. "Now go take care of your daughter. She needs help with her homework." Sophie was thrilled about becoming a big sister, already planning all the things she'd teach the baby. Watching Alexander with their daughter, soon to be daughters, the ultrasound had revealed, Olivia felt her heart could burst with happiness. The baby arrived on a perfect spring morning, a healthy girl with Alexander's gray eyes and her mother's smile. They named her Sarah, after Alexander's first wife, because some loves are meant to be honored, not forgotten. "She's perfect," Alexander whispered, holding his newborn daughter with the same wonder he'd shown holding Sophie 7 years before. "You're perfect. Our family is perfect. We're not perfect," Olivia corrected, watching Sophie gently stroke her baby sister's tiny hand. "But we're ours. And that's better." He looked at her then, his eyes full of love and gratitude and bone-deep contentment. "Best coffee spill of my life," she laughed, the sound filling their hospital room with joy. "Best shoe I ever ruined. Best interruption in my carefully planned life. Best risk I ever took. Best love I ever found." He leaned over to kiss her, careful of the baby between them. "Thank you, Olivia, for taking a chance on a broken widower and his scared little girl. For choosing us. You chose me first," she reminded him. "In that coffee shop. When you caught me. And I'll keep catching you. Every day, for the rest of our lives." Years passed, beautiful, chaotic, full. They had one more child. A boy they named James, who had Olivia's dark hair and his father's quiet intensity. The penthouse filled with laughter and toys and the beautiful mess of children growing up loved. Alexander's business flourished, built on principles of integrity and innovation. Olivia eventually started a nonprofit focused on supporting single parents, using her experience and Alexander's resources to make a difference. Sophie grew into a remarkable young woman, kind, brilliant, creative, who never forgot the nanny who became her mother when she needed one most. She'd tell anyone who'd listen the story of how her parents met, embellishing it into epic romance. "She makes it sound like a fairy tale," Olivia said one evening, watching their oldest daughter dramatically recount the coffee shop incident to her siblings. "Isn't it?" Alexander pulled her close, his arms still the safest place she knew. 20 years of marriage hadn't dulled the attraction between them. If anything, it had deepened, matured into something richer and more profound. "I suppose it is. We did get our happily ever after. We're still getting it," he corrected. "Every day, every moment. This isn't the ending, Olivia. It's just the life we're building, one beautiful day at a time. She turned in his arms, looking into the face she'd loved for 2 decades, seeing the same passion and devotion that had been there from the start. Then here's to the rest of our days, she said, standing on her toes to kiss him. To the rest of our days, he echoed. And to coffee shop collisions that change everything. They kissed as their children laughed in the background, as the city lights twinkled beyond the windows, as their life, complicated and beautiful and wholly theirs, continued on. Because some stories don't end, some loves don't fade, some promises, the ones made between 2 people who chose each other against all odds, last forever. And in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, in the home built from coffee spills and second chances, in the family created from loss and hope and courage, Alexander and Olivia Blackwood lived not just happily ever after, but happily ever now, every day, every moment, every heartbeat together. If you loved Alexander and Olivia's passionate journey, rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments and subscribe for more unforgettable tales of love, desire, and second chances.